So the Zelda game situation in 2024 just got a lot more interesting because we have a tier 1 leaker by the name of Midori, who, if you've been watching my videos recently, or any Nintendo channels for that matter, you've probably been hearing a lot about this individual. This is somebody with the track record similar to that of Pioro, specifically more for Sega and Atlas leaks, but has been mentioning a lot of Nintendo stuff recently in the form of code names and behind the scenes things going on. This person has yet to be proven wrong on anything, and while there's even some talk online about investigations being launched into leakers that are leaking things through YouTube's backend, Midori's not one of those people. She has sources that are just within the gaming industry that disclosed information to her. She's not worried about what's going on with all of that and will continue to leak information for the foreseeable future. But now we have a big update around the possibility of Twilight Princess specifically being named, just sitting there on a shelf like Andy Robinson and Jeff Grubb have all mentioned in the past, and this really doesn't involve Wind Waker as well, because those are both kind of hand-in-hand rumored games with each other as far as Nintendo having them done and ready to go for Nintendo Switch. But the question is, when do we see them? Then we have a project code name that does heavily imply that we might be looking at yet another 2D Zelda game in development, and this one may or may not be related to the outstanding rumor from Papagenos that does suggest we should be able to expect some kind of Legend of Zelda title where Zelda is actually the lead playable character. So there's lots to unpack here. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And I want to first kick off this conversation by talking through the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess portion of what's going on with this new information here. Now, I don't blame you if you are tired of this story, because we've been talking about it on this channel for years and years. It seemed like Metroid Prime Remastered was never going to happen until that finally just did one day. Yet another game that Nintendo supposedly sat on for quite some time before they finally released it. We even had reports recently that Paper Mario Thousand Year Door was essentially done in 2023. Like, sometimes they just finish a game, it's a simple port, and they just wait until they need a game to come out in their release calendar, and it just causes all of these rumors and leakers that are going about talking about these things behind the scenes seem crazy, and it seems like a bunch of people are buying into misinformation, when the reality is that Nintendo's just going to do things on their own time. So I don't blame you if you don't want to hold your breath for these games anymore. They've been in the rumor mill speculation talk for long enough. But to first get on the same page with the latest update around them, specifically from Midori, we have to first hop over to My Nintendo News and read through this following detailed typed up article. Midori on Zelda Twilight Princess Switch. I do not know why Nintendo is not releasing it yet. Midori has seemingly backed a number of high-profile leakers suggesting that Nintendo is currently sitting on a remaster of The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD for the Nintendo Switch family of systems. It all started earlier today when she said that Nintendo has a project with the codename Edward in the works, which is related to Zelda. She then said that Richard was the codename for The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake on Nintendo Switch. Another user chimed in and said The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess Remastered, to which she replied, I do not know why Nintendo is not releasing it yet. Now, that statement alone from Midori does perfectly line up with exactly what the other insiders who have been mentioning one or both of these games have been saying, which is just that Nintendo has these done sitting on a shelf somewhere and they don't know when they're going to drop them, which is probably what caused Andy Robinson to tweet that Wind Waker and Twilight Princess are 100% coming out in the year of 2021 when we learned about Skyward Sword HD launching and all of that. He was kind of taking a shot at Skyward Sword HD, saying it's not a great 3D Zelda game, and he said it's 100% going to happen that Wind Waker and Twilight Princess will be coming to the Switch that year. Then he backtracked and said you should never try to time Nintendo. Jeff Grubb hearing similar rumblings. These games are done, they're ready to go, they're sitting on a shelf somewhere, but it's not clear when or if Nintendo will talk about these things. And that is where I would like to say there's two possibilities I can see Nintendo doing from here with these supposedly finished, long-awaited Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD ports to the Nintendo Switch. They could either be saving them for this very year, where the Nintendo Switch lineup is very light leading into their next gen console that they are going to be talking about no later than, if not launching it, in March of 2025. And it could be those perfect extra couple games to kind of keep Nintendo afloat for their release schedule, and we might learn about them as soon as this month in the June Nintendo Direct. The other option for these games could be that they are buffer titles that will be released on the Nintendo Switch, but kind of as Nintendo's continued support for the Switch family of systems that they will no doubt have. With over 141 million units successfully sold of this console, they're not going to want to just completely pull the plug on the Switch lifecycle support after they transition to their new console. So there is a world where I could see Nintendo already moving on to the big 3D Marios of the world for the next gen console and all of their new next gen exclusive games, and these are the Nintendo Switch games brought over that are actually released after the Nintendo Switch 2 is indeed in our hands. That is definitely a viable possibility as well. So whether or not these are 2024 games or 2025 games is anybody's guess at this point in time, but I do like to have somebody as reliable and credible as Midori chiming in on this and just clearly stating that she's not sure why Nintendo's not releasing The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD, insinuating that yeah, it's done and ready to go somewhere, but it's hard to figure out Nintendo's plan on some of these things. Now, in terms of the Edward codename, there's a lot of interesting implications to unpack with that whole thing as well. I am of the mindset that this could be a codename more for a 2D Zelda game if you look at the history of other codenames within the Legend of Zelda franchise, but you can first see the exact string of tweets from Midori, which reads, "There is a project at Nintendo with the codename Edward. This might be related to the rumors of a new Zelda series title." A user then asked, "How does the name Edward imply Zelda? Have there been similar codenames in the past?" She then replies, "Richard was the codename for Link's Awakening remake on Switch." Then you can see the following post from Oatmeal Dome, which outlines a number of different codenames for the Legend of Zelda series, where Ocarina of Time 3D is Queen, A Link Between Worlds is Jack, Majora's Mask 3D was Joker, Breath of the Wild U-King, and Link's Awakening Switch was Richard. And what many thought, including Stealth, was that Midori says there's a project at Nintendo with the codename Edward, which she speculates could be Zelda related. The Link's Awakening remake had the codename Richard. If we ever actually received Oracles of Ages / Seasons remakes, that would make me very happy. So lots of people thinking these might be the Oracle remakes. Well, Papagenos weighs in on this, retweeting this same thing and saying, "I think you'll be happy, but don't hold your breath for it to be an Oracle of Ages / Seasons remake," with a smile winky face. So the theme for Nintendo with codenames for The Legend of Zelda seems to be royalty, and Edward and Richard definitely fit into that. It's also been pointed out from friend of the channel Andres Restart that Triforce Heroes had the codename Alice, and that could indeed be tied to just some kind of new 2D Zelda project. I've seen that idea floated around online. I've also seen friend of the channel Nintendo Prime mention that maybe there's something like the third Oracle game that was once supposed to be in development but ultimately scrapped. I thought that might have been a remake of Zelda 1 in some way, shape, or form, and then it got scrapped. Could be wrong about that. Haven't looked into that whole history in a long time, but the idea being is this some kind of brand new 2D Zelda experience that maybe you play as Zelda as the main character, and this ties into what Papagenos has been insinuating that we might hear about said 2D game as soon as the June time Nintendo Direct. These are all very realistic possibilities, or it could be something entirely new 2D Zelda, not tied to any kind of remake, remaster, or third Oracle game. That is very much on the table as well. I still think Nintendo has their 2D Zelda team working on something else, whether it be remake, remaster, or just something fresh from the ground up with that more classic linear style of Zelda games, because we know we're not getting the big Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom level games any earlier than 5 to 7 years apart from release time at this point in time with game development and how it goes. So Nintendo likes the idea of something Zelda launching every year within the Nintendo Switch's life cycle, with the exception of 2022. I don't think 2024 breaks that trend. I think we go right back to business as usual. And the real big question is now, is this 2D Zelda game going to be playable? Will it be maybe some kind of Minish Cap remaster? Maybe that's the title they go with. Maybe A Link to the Past actually gets a from the ground up Link's Awakening treatment, if you will. And even though you could argue A Link Between Worlds kind of fits that build, it also doesn't, because it's its own game with a new fresh story and mechanics. So maybe they just go back to basics and give us that SNES remaster once again. Maybe they do the original Legend of Zelda, create a remake from the ground up for that in the Link's Awakening style engine. All of those are strong possibilities, and I still think that Wind Waker and Twilight Princess are sitting there in Nintendo's lineup ready to go at some point in time, and that is where things get very exciting as we walk forward towards the June Nintendo Direct. We don't know that these games will be there for 100% certainty, but it is clear that Nintendo is doing stuff behind the scenes with the Legend of Zelda franchise right now, as you would expect them to, as it's one of their biggest cash cows in their wheelhouse, and you know Nintendo is in the business of making money. So let me know in the comments down below what you make of all of this. Do you have preferences one way or another with what Zelda game we see next? Would you rather it be a 2D remake, remaster, or brand new title altogether? Would you rather see Wind Waker and Twilight Princess finally get acknowledged and released next before anything else happens in the Legend of Zelda franchise? And do you think we will see any official mention of a new Zelda game in 2024 at this upcoming June Nintendo Direct? So thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. Make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.